Welcome to Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight we have a good show with you. It's going to be me and my dad, so let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight, the first segment we're going to talk about is the Lakers and their struggles currently. So, Dad, we've been seeing the Lakers. We saw them make the big move to get Russell, to get Trevor Ariza, and get Melo in their offseason. What do you think about the Lakers right now? They're now 16-16, and it's not looking too good for them.
Yeah, no. I think the Lakers right now, with all the talent they have, they are really, really struggling to find their identity. They have some of the best players in the league right now, and they're just having a hard time figuring out how they want to play this game. Defensively, they're not doing very well. Defensively, they're also not. What I'll say, they're just not running well together. And I don't know whether, I can't say I don't know. The chemistry between the players doesn't seem to be, connecting because one night they'll go up big and then you're thinking, oh, they're going to do really good. And then they'll allow teams to come back from they'll have big leads and allow teams to storm back. So I don't know whether they need to switch up how they do things. I don't know what the deal is with Anthony Davis lately, but I think he just needs to be a pure center or something because it's just hard for me to put my finger on what's really wrong.
Yeah, AD, he's going to be out for, I think, 4 weeks. They said he has a sprained MCL, if I'm not mistaken, because he fell pretty hard last week on his knee. And that's always been the question about AD is, can he stay healthy throughout the whole season? And that's been a constant question every year, and he has not,
Yes.
lived up to those expectations. But a lot of people, what I've noticed about the Lakers is in the third quarter, that's like their worst quarter. They
Yep.
will look good. Like yesterday, they was playing the Suns, and the Suns are one of the better teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And they were only down during halftime. It was like 56-54, so it was a good game. But that third quarter came out, and they just did not play well at
Well,
all, and they only made it to 90 points. So, with that being said, of course, then the turnovers are not they constantly
mm-hmm.
turn the ball over, and then you obviously know Russell Westbrook is leading the charge with that, so he's constantly turning the ball over at a high rate, and
Yeah.
it's not really good. So that's pretty much what's wrong with the Lakers. But Dad, I think when you look at this, even when you look at Shannon, where what Shannon Sharp was saying today, it was amazing to see how LeBron is still playing at a high level in year 19 than we expected. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
expected it, but he can't carry teams anymore. Would you agree with that? Being that he's getting older, these teams are getting more deeper, these teams are getting more talented. Do you think he can carry this team?
Well, the problem is LeBron's game is explosive. He's a guy that plays with power. He's a guy that plays with physicality a lot of the time. And the problem is now, I mean, as you get older, I mean, attrition hits. I mean, you're naturally going to slow down. You're naturally not going to be as fast as you were 10, 15 years ago. And I think that in spurts, he can still be that dominant player. But the problem is with guys like AD. AD was supposed to be that guy that transcends and turns into that big name guy like Giannis and really take the brunt of the load. But he can't. He can't stay healthy. He's been fragile, and he hasn't taken over. He hasn't taken over this year. I mean, you think a guy his size and his skill set. His skill set to me is better than Giannis as far as his bag of what he can do, as far as
Mm-hmm.
shooting, taking people off the dribble, dunking, rebounding. He can do everything that Giannis can do and then some. But the difference between the two is one just seems a lot more tough as far as just, and I wouldn't say tough. I'm going to say one just seems a lot less fragile, I would say, because Giannis takes a beating as well. His game is physicality, but he just seemed strong. Anthony Davis seems to continue to have these nagging injuries. And at this point, I think it's getting to the point, I don't see him going up. I see the decline. And I don't know, I mean, if you agree with that, but I'm seeing a decline because as you get nagging injuries, it's just going to get worse.
Right. I agree with that. Like when you look at AD and it's different, like he's a bigger guy, so those injuries, last a little longer because he's a lot bigger and he carries a lot of more, weight, the height and different things like that. But with AD, like the whole hope was, we brung him into LA. Of course they won a championship and they contended, but right now they're at they're at the hands of going into the play-in tournament and may not even making the playoffs at all. So when you look at AD was supposed to be that guy that, LeBron teaches, and I'm sure he is, and he takes over the franchise and still continues to develop, the LA Lakers when LeBron retires, whenever that may be. But for AD, he he's a much better scorer than Giannis, I believe. I agree with that. And I feel like he could dribble better, he can shoot better, but he just doesn't. I don't know what it is, but I feel like if you have a player like LeBron who is so invested in his health, who's so invested in making sure I'm putting the right nutrients, taking the right therapy, landing a certain way, you should look into that. Because over the season, I was really excited to see AD start to bulk up because he gained a lot. He gained more muscle. I saw in a lot of the pictures, and he was doing a lot of different things. But I think the biggest issue is with the Lakers, obviously chemistry. You have all these different guys. You have Russell, LeBron, AD. They're all trying to mesh. Then you add Isaiah Thomas. You have Trevor Ariza. Melo's been phenomenal. He has been coming off the bench, and I'm really happy to see him play at a high level. But those guys are trying to compete for championships. They're trying to, this may be my last few years of playing. They're trying to get that last hurrah. But Dad, do you think that the Lakers should trade Russell because he's a lot of the issues as far as scoring, turning the ball over, just doing a lot of Russell Westbrook things?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Russell Westbrook has been the same player for years, and I don't know where people think at this stage in his career that it was going to be any different. He's still one of the most dynamic athletes that the NBA has seen from his explosiveness, but I don't know I don't think he fits with what the Lakers are trying to do because he plays with such pace, and sometimes that pace creates more issues because he'll run down and fast break in certain situations and just aggressive, and then it creates these sloppy plays where these turnovers happen. And I just think that he's too good of a player to make those kinds of mistakes. But what the Lakers are trying to do, I mean, I think that, back to Anthony Davis, excuse me, AD, is they need to take him out of all these extra things. Like, he needs to either be a pure center or whatever else. But I think being that his health so fragile, you gotta get him where he's getting the ball down low. And then maybe playing inside out will create better shots for him where he's down low, layups, rebounds, dunks. And then with his skill set, that will start opening up the rim. And I think they need to focus on figuring out where they're putting these guys to help them better conserve energy and keep them out of these situations. I mean, it's tough to say that because they're playing a high level sport, but it's just they got to figure something out because it's not going to get any easier down the stretch. And there's a lot of teams with some young legs that's coming. So
Yeah. Like when you look at DeAndre Ayton, when you look at Giannis, these guys, they're playing at a very high level and they're young and they're, aspiring to be great. And AD, you would think he's one of the great players in this league, and no doubt about it. But can you take the next step to be that dominant player to where, okay, this is his team, everything runs through him? That's the biggest question that I have for AD. But I think the years of LeBron carrying teams like he used to is kind of over because we're seeing so many teams that are stacked up already. When you
yeah,
look at the Suns, you have Booker and Chris, CP3. When you
yeah,
look at Golden State, you have Curry. You have then Clay's coming back next month.
yeah,
There's the teams are stacked now. So LeBron can't just go through the whole Western Conference by himself. Like, he needs that help, and it's
absolutely.
not like he doesn't. It's just the guys are not connected. But one more question before we go to break, Dad. Do you think Frank Vogel needs to go?
I don't see. It's hard for me to know if it's the coach when you have all those different role players and all these seasoned veterans. I just think it's a chemistry because I think the coach is good enough to put a scheme in place. But if people are not executing at their position and doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's hard for us to diagnose that, spectating. So I won't
Hmm.
say that he needs to go because I think the problem is more so on the coach, the team than the actual coach. And one thing else I would say, as it relates to like LeBron and AD, when you look at, well, I'll talk about LeBron more so. So if you look at any of your greats, and because I'm a fan of, I mean, we all love Kobe. Of course, I'm a big Michael Jordan fan, and even KD in the league and different players like that. As these guys got, like when Jordan got older, you saw his finesse game go up. His outside shot started. I'm not talking about out, to the 3-point line, but his mid-range jumper was just deadly. Kobe developed that, and I still don't see that level of that type of execution from LeBron from that point, because that's how he can save himself. Also, is by, hey, I can't get around all these guys. I can't be dunking on all these guys. I can't be banging every game. Let me start dropping these outside shots, these mid-range jumpers, and that changes the whole game because he still has enough athleticism to get to the goal. But if he's consistently hitting those shots, and there's times, in his championship series where he started hitting those shots, he's a nightmare to deal with when he's dropping those. And I think they got to figure out where to get LeBron the ball in spots. And I think him getting older, he has to get away from that point guard thing because he has to exert more energy bringing the ball up the court and facilitating that way instead of being in a spot and getting the ball so he can operate. And I just think that that's something that he would have to want to relinquish, but I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah, because LeBron, he loves playing that role. But we'll be right back. We're gonna go to a quick break. We'll be right back with Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you the Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
Welcome back, everyone, to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And to wrap up the night, we want to talk about LeBron wanting to play with his son. And Dad, that is like I think that's one of his biggest, dreams is to play with his son. And his son is a junior right now, in high school, and he is 6'3" already. So this kid, he's already averaging, I think, like 12 points a game. He's tall. His mid-range jumper is really good. And LeBron always talks about, wanting to be able to stay on the same court with his son and playing in the NBA. That I think that's the biggest thing in his career that he's ever wanted. So, Dad, what do you think about him wanting to play with his son?
I think that's a great thing. I mean, man, think about how special would that be? How many people in any level or any sport has the opportunity to have longevity in that sport, to actually see a child grow old enough to come and play in that sport with them? I mean, that's amazing to me. I mean, you probably can find something like that in golf,
Hmm.
because golf is, I won't say golf is a physical sport, but I mean, golf is a sport that you can play well into, in your later years. But a sport like basketball, when it's based on so much athleticism, for you to be able to play long enough for your kids to play with you, that would be an amazing accomplishment. It would be special. I mean, I would love to see it. I mean, I don't know if LeBron's going to make it that far, because with all of his accomplishments on the court, he has 4 titles. He's already a billionaire. I just don't see any other point in him continuing to prolong, because after a while, it's going to become trash years. I mean, where it's just like you're here, and is he going to be the same production the next 3 to 4 to 5 years? I mean, you don't know how long it's going to take. I mean, Bronny has to go through another year of high school, graduate, then I believe go through a couple of years of college or whatever. And if he gets into the draft, cool. But you're talking 2, 3 years out. I mean, what are we looking at that time frame? So we'll see. We'll have to sit back and watch. I mean, I'm rooting for it. I would love to see it because he's invested a lot into his kids. But I just think that's just a tall order, because will he still be good enough where teams still want to pay him to play? So that's the other part of it. He has control now because he's still one of the more dominant players. But as he gets older, that can shift to where teams are like, well, we need to move on and get some young legs in here. And that happens all the time. And it could happen to him if he don't leave on his own terms, waiting on something like that. So we don't know.
Yeah, it's always I've always wanted to see that because I've seen his son play, just a little clips on Instagram, on ESPN, and how LeBron is so invested in his kid's life because, as you know, he didn't have a father in his life. And I remember watching his show, The Shop on HBO. He was talking about how that fueled him to want to be, 110% in his children's life and just making sure they have everything that they need and making sure that, they're the best versions of him and his wife, Savannah. And just seeing him, and of course he's going to give his son, the jewels. He's going to give him all the tools that he needs to be successful. And even I think, the stuff that we, ridicule LeBron for, he could be instilling that in his son. Like, I know that wasn't my thing. I didn't like doing that, but you should, because the way the league is moving now, it's a shooting league now. Of course, we got the Steph Currys, we got the Bookers, we got everyone shooting mid range, all these different things like that. So it's really stepping away from all the dunking, even though it's it's still a big thing. But the 3 point has been so profound lately because as we know, Curry has made that what it is now. So a lot of these guys starting to shoot, just shoot, and we live in a finesse era right now. So of course it's good to develop that right now. But it'll be amazing to see. But Dad, do you think that if that's the case, do you think LeBron will leave LA and go somewhere else?
I mean, he might not have a choice. I mean,
Hmm.
LA is all about these championships, and I don't even know if they don't make it out of this year, what is LeBron and the Lakers relationship going to be next year? I mean, if they have a terrible ending to this year, they might blow the whole thing up. I mean, because let's be honest, there's a lot of money being thrown out, and all of these teams. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you, when they let JaVale McGee go, when Rondo left the first time, after the championship run, and I know he came back and all that, but my problem is the chemistry of that team, I think, would have translated well to what they do because I have not when Rondo was there in the championship year. When LeBron went out, Rondo ran the offense as if he was still on the court. I don't see that same level of production now, and I don't know how you let something where you got a chemistry being built that was good enough to win, and then now you start getting all this star power of a bunch of different people who you don't even know if it's going to work. You don't have time for that right now. They're trying to win now, and I just think they're going backwards. And I don't see where the scenario next year is going to be any better. Now LeBron probably going to be there; he's under contract or whatever else. But what is his physicality? What is he going to be like? What we don't know. We don't even know what the team's going to be like. If Anthony Davis continues on the path that he's on, they might not want to deal with him. They might want to trade him. So right now, if they don't win, I expect the Lakers team to be blown up. I expect there to be an intervention. I really do. Like, hey, this is not working, guys. Let's take the control back. Let's do something different. And I think that's where they're running the risk of that happening if they don't start turning this thing around. I'm talking about coach down.
Yeah, I agree with that because they have a lot of stars in that team. You have Russell, you have Rondo, you have Dwight, you have AD, you have Trevor Ariza, you have Carmelo. There's a lot of people on this team that are very, very good, like very good players. And what I thought in the beginning of the season, I was like, well, I think LeBron, like I was excited when they signed Russell because I'm like, there's always the question of Russell, can he be a team player? Can he, take lesser shots and stuff like that? But I feel like I felt like LeBron was going to be able to talk to him and say, we do this, and it's not really working right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do trade Russell or some of these players because there's a lot of good name players that they can, give out for another big player. But it's right now, as LeBron's getting older, his whole idea, I believe, is okay, bring all these people in. I'm getting older. I'm still going to give you some points. I'm still going to be LeBron or what we know him to be. But we were expecting AD to start. Okay, AD starting to emerge as a superstar, and we were thinking, okay, AD is going to be the number one guy now. And then when LeBron retires on his own terms, but obviously that's not working right now because AD cannot stay healthy, and AD was supposed to be that guy. So it's always a question. We always love to see. We love to see. Tom Brady, having this long career, LeBron having this long career, because I don't think we'll ever see that again like that. Guys staying this long and different periods
I
of
do
time winning championships.
well, I do believe we'll see that more because when you have somebody pioneer it, there's other people that are going to aspire to do the same thing. And when you see the advancements in sports medicine and the way these guys are taking care of their bodies now, we're going to see this many more times. And I
But
would say more so in basketball because basketball is not football. And at the quarterback position, I truly believe we'll see that again. And I think we'll see that again soon, far as quarterback position, because, and of course, kickers, but quarterbacks, because that's the most protected position on the field. Basketball wise, it's just a different sport. It's not There's not as much, and that's why a lot of those guys get a lot more guaranteed money because they're usually available. They're usually there. So I
but
do believe
think,
we'll see guys later on in life. I mean, having longer careers.
but think about this, Dad. Like when it comes to, I don't think well. Like I agree with you saying, but what I mean, like winning and going to championships, as
Okay.
long as
Oh,
Tom
from that stuff.
Brady and
No, no, no,
LeBron
because
going
that
that far.
you would have to in NFL. You just have to have the perfect recipe of the talent and coaching. That
Hmm.
recipe with Belichick, Brady, and what they had on that team, I don't know how you can duplicate that. And Belichick might be on the verge of duplicating that from his end with Mac Jones and how their production and what they're doing now, because I think the coach has more control over that. But at the same time, you got to have that talented guy at the helm that can, basically see the coach's vision and be an extension of them on the field and be a coach on the field. And that's what Brady brought you. And those are like once in a lifetime talents. And people can talk about his physical attributes all they want. He's not that fast, whatever. But it's what's going on up here in his brain and how meticulous he is about studying and making sure that he's making the right play, being precise with the ball. And, Peyton Manning was that way. Rodgers is that way. Those are once in a lifetime talent to have that combination to be able to go out there and actually put it on the field. So I don't know if we're going to see it that way ever again.
Yeah, and it's we always have to take it, we have to cherish these moments because, with how great LeBron is, how great Brady is, it's really amazing to see those guys, like I said before, still performing at a high level the way they are, like it's I don't think, in my lifetime, like I this is my first time seeing something like that, from LeBron to Brady and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see that, but you know far as other people, I don't think we'll ever see that, winning like that, performing at a high level. You will still have people that will be in the league for a long time, but may not have the exact production like a Tom Brady or LeBron James right now. So it's going to be very exciting. But that wraps up tonight's show. Dad, thank you for the show. Thank you for being on here, just, giving your insight on these topics. Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Jay. That wraps up tonight's show, and we'll see you here on Monday on Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk.